Hello and welcome to our latest bonus chat. This was recorded as part of our Connacht v Leinster Rap Pod. If you missed that, be sure to check it out on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. Now, we had planned to devote these videos to individual Leinster players for the next while. But this week, I suppose I could hardly ignore the naming of the Irish Six Nations squad. So this week, I'm asking my guest, Ciarán Duffy, to offer his thoughts and maybe even try to come up with a matchday squad to play France while he's at it. Now, for the injury news, is for sure one thing. The latest injury news has not made it easy, has it?
I think like at this stage, I'm nearly trying to count who we're going to even have in the squad for our loose heads and tight heads at this stage. But no, it's Cormac Chukwu is in, and now he's a good player. I think he was unlucky to miss out, probably just down to having been injured a little bit and not having much game time. And yeah, we have another. His name escapes me now. We have another prop in from Connacht replacing Jack Boyle. Um,
Billy Bohan.
that's it. Yeah. I don't think he'll see game time, but the way injuries are going, it's the way he might end up being first choice in a few weeks. The way injuries are going, it's just one of those. It's always hard having injuries. It's really unfortunate when you have lots of injuries in the same position at the moment. Both sides of the scrum, loose head and tight head, and fullback is an area where we're struggling. So I think they'll be the interesting ones to see, like who's gonna start and be on the bench, loose head, tight head. How is that game time going to be spread out? Are they going to both play? Is it going to be you leave one on for 70 minutes and you bring one on for the last 10 minutes, or is it going to be simply you bring one on, you give someone 45, 50 minutes and then bring someone on for the rest of the game? But
What's your team then?
So I have front row. I have Dan Sheehan starting at hooker and Ronan Keller on the bench. Uh, I think they're just the two best hookers in Ireland at the moment. And I think if we hadn't have had injuries in both sides of prop, I think we could have maybe given someone else a game. But at the same time, I think you have to have that bit of stability. Lou said I actually had to look up who's left in the squad at Lou said, but I think you're going to go with Tom O'Toole starting, Michael Milne on the bench. I think Tom O'Toole just has that bit more international experience. I think Michael Milne is a very good Lou said. He's a good player. I think they're two better options over Lockman. Jeremy Lockman. I'd rather see these two start. It'll be interesting to see how long Tom O'Toole plays because he is that bit more experienced at international level. I like Milne. He's a very good. We saw him. He's a very good attacking prop. I feel like. But tight head. Then I went with Beelum to start again, just because he adds that bit of stability. He's played a lot. And then I'd probably say Clarkson to back him up, just because again he's played a lot for Ireland recently, and we just need that bit of stability. Then when we come to the second row, this is where things get interesting because I think Joe McCarty and Edwin Dogbo are going to be two key players for Ireland in the World Cup. If Dogbo had been fit to play in the November internationals, I think he'd start. You can make the argument for both starting. At the same time, I think you'd make the argument have James Ryan start alongside one of them and have the other one on the bench as an impact player. Um, I went with for this James Ryan starts, Joe McCarty beside him, and Evan Adagbo on the bench just because he hasn't been capped before. And I mean, throwing a young player into an away Six Nations game against France, that's quite the big start. I think he's capable. He's a very good player, and I think by the time the World Cup roll around, I think he will be starting for us. But I think finishing with him and Joe McCarty, I think that's going to be a really good combination. Especially if we're playing the likes of South Africa. I think for England that would be an option, actually having both of them start, but I think for us first cap, use them as that impact sub. Then the back row, I think the fact that you have James Ryan, Joe McCarty, and Edwin Adogbo all fit and healthy for lock options, I think that allows you to play Ty Burn at 6. That's his best position. He's great as a 5, but his best position is a 6. And I think, he's Ireland's best 6 at the moment, so I'd play him there. Then 7, again, I would have liked to have possibly seen Nick Timoney or Keem Prendergast start at 7. just because we need the depth. But with all the injuries, I think you'd argue Josh van der Fleer, he has had a resurgence. I would have had him on the bench, bring him on, but I think you start him because he's had a bit of a resurgence in his career. I don't think he was ever playing bad. I just think he wasn't quite reaching the heights he had. But then now at this point in his career, he's playing extra rugby, so I think having him at 7, this probably isn't the game to make loads of changes. But I think if you're having a loose head, you haven't played too much, and if you're having a lock on the bench who's making his debut, you kind of have to have you kind of have to have that bit of a established power in the back row, and Caelan Doris obviously at 8 is going to captain the side. I don't think there's too many questions about that. Then as the back row on the bench, I was thinking between 6-2 and a 5-3. I went with a 5-3. You could argue we might have to go with the 6-2 with all the injuries, but for now it's a 5-3. And I went with. I was between Jack Cohen and Keane Prendergast and Nick Tamaney. I think Tom O'Hearn, he's picked up another injury. I think he possibly would have been an option to play at lock. But in terms of back rows, Keane Prendergast I like because I think he covers both sides, 6 and 7, quite well, and he can also do a job at 8. Jack Conan, we know what he can do at 8, and if Doris has to move to 7 or 6, it's not the end of the world. And Nick Timoney, I think he's actually a very underrated player in Irish rugby, just covering 7. So I kind of went with like, who are we most likely to need to sub at some stage? I think Tyke Byrne and Caelan Doris finished the game. So I think in that sense, it's either going to be Keane Prendergast or Nick Timoney. It was a bit of a toss-up. I think Keane Prendergast, I think by the time the World Cup comes around, he could feature more in the squad. But I went with Nick Timoney as a bit of an outsider pick, but I think he has that bit of 7s flair that we need. He was obviously, like, against Japan, he was fantastic. I think, I think Josh van der Fleer is probably not going to play the full game. So I think, if he comes on late in the game where we need to make that, we need to create something. I think it's an attack-minded choice, but I think if he comes on late in the game, I think he's worth putting in. But I think Keane Prendergast is a player that we're going to see, we need to see in the squad at some stage, because 7 is a position where we need that bit of depth. So going to the backs then. Glad we have Craig Casey fit. Glad we have Jamison Gibson Park fit. Nice to see Nate Doak in the squad. I think it makes more sense to have him than Caelan Blade. Ben Murphy possibly a little bit unlucky to miss out. I think ultimately, I think having Jamison Gibson Park start and Craig Casey on the bench, it'll probably be the other way around from the World Cup, because I think Jamison Gibson Park he'll be 34 or 35 by that stage, and you'd argue he's better to finish the game. And I know finishers has become one of those rugby buzzwords that everyone loves, but I think we do have to think of that mindset: who's going to be starting, who's going to be finishing. But I think for this game, we're easing into the transition at this stage. So I think by the end of the Six Nations, maybe Casey starts, Gibson Park on the bench. But for this game, start Gibson Park, have Casey on the bench. I don't think Doak's in the picture just yet. Maybe he will be in 2 years. Ben Murphy, another one who's probably a little bit unlucky to miss out. Then going to fly half is an interesting one. Harry Byrne is probably the form fly half, but you could argue Sam Prendergast is more of an attacking fly half. Jack Crowley hasn't been in great form. Kieran Frawley's not playing as a fly half at the moment. Word on Jack Murphy, I think he's a little bit unlucky to miss out. It's just the fact that, how many fly halves are you going to have in the squad at this stage? I think he's one that could feature over the summer, or could be brought into the squad later in the Six Nations. So it's a bit of a toss-up again. I think, Harry Byrne is better defensively. Sam Prendergast is better attack-wise. So I actually went with Harry Byrne starting, just to keep things pragmatic and ticking over for the start of the game, and then Sam Prendergast to come on when there's that bit more space opened up, because the game plan here is to hang on in there until we can frustrate the French, not like the French to be emotional, and then to bring on Prendergast when things open up a little bit more. Then for just skipping ahead to fullback before we do the wings, I'm starting Kieran Frawley and having Jack Crowley on the bench, because again they both cover fullback and centre. I think that's a place we need that bit of cover. And when you look at the centre options, Centre is an area of concern for Ireland, I think, because I think I went with Jacob Stockdale starting and Gary Ringrose on the bench. I think Jacob Stockdale, he's that battering ram 12 that we need. We need that bit of beef, especially if we're going to be hanging on in there for a while. Gary Ringrose is our best 13.
You mean Stu
Um,
McCluskey for 12? You mean Stu
what
McCluskey
did I
for
say?
12?
Yeah,
I said
sorry, yeah,
Jacob
Stuart.
Stockdale. Yeah.
No, yeah, Stuart
Start again.
McCluskey at 12. No,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
that would be a three dimensional chess move. No, Stuart McCluskey at 12. Yeah, one of the Ulster players at 12. But Stuart McCluskey at 12, I think he's that big battering ram, and he he's good defensively. And Ireland actually have a really good record when he starts games as well. Gary Ringrose at 13 hasn't had the best of season, but in fairness, I think he's been recovering from injury. That's an area of concern for Ireland. I think we're going to ultimately see. I was looking at the XV squad, Jude Postlewaite, Dylan Kelly, they'll probably, the likes of Cal Ford, they'll probably get more use from being in that XV squad at the moment, and playing that game against England, but I think ultimately they have to be in the Ireland squad. Um, they have to be in the Ireland senior squad because that's an area we need depth. And to be honest, one of them probably has to play at some stage because 12 and 13, it's not that we have bad props, it's just that they're all on the wrong age of being 30 and wrong side of being 30. And like Bundy Aki, I look at, I see why he's in the squad for this game, and he's probably that mature player to have around the camp. He can still do a job, but like, is he going to be playing in the World Cup in 2 years? I don't think so. He'll be 37. It'll be like we'd have to have a real injury crisis if he's still playing. So I think ultimately, Postlewaite, Kelly, I think you, Gavin, at some point is another one, and Cathal Ford have to be looked at in that centre option. But for now, I've gone with Stockdale and Ringrose. So that means 15. I have Frawley just because he's played there more. Jack Crowley on the bench. Again, I know it's quite the fly half overload, but I'm just thinking Crowley does cover centre and fullback well. With our injuries, that's kind of what we need to be thinking. I think, I've gone with at 11. I've gone with James Lowe. He hasn't been playing the best of rugby, but I just think he's more consistent for Ireland than Jacob Stockdale, and he's a better defender. And then at 14, I actually do think Matt Hansen would have started at 14 if he's fit. To be honest, he probably would have started fullback if he was fit. But unfortunately, if not, it's another area where we're down a few players. So I went with Tommy O'Brien just because he's kind of offers that pace in exchange for James Lowe. Hopefully he's fit. If he's injured, we're going down a few names again. But to be honest, the way it's going, there'll probably be a few more injuries by the time the game comes around. So we might have to pick another 23 entirely.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch, you touched on this at one point, just the importance of this game, and it relates on how the fixtures pan out, because we're used to the Six Nations being played over 7 weeks, but because of this new Nations Championship, they've squashed it down to just 6 weeks, which means the first three matches are played after each other. There's no break. 3 matches, no break. And the fixtures fall for Ireland that 2 of those matches are away to France and then away to England with Italy in between. So I think if Ireland is going to compete at all in this competition, we really do have to go for one of those away wins, at least one win, those away matches. You can't take Italy for granted, but if we're thinking of competing, if we're going to be there, I mean, if we lose those 2 games, we're going to have 2 whole weeks. It's going to be one break. It was 1 week of a break, and we'll have gone 2 defeats. And we'll have basically 2 weeks to mull over those 2 defeats. You know what I mean? So that's going to be a media nightmare for the team as well. So they really have to go for it. I think they've got to put their best team out there. I think it was real positive news that they were able to name the likes of Hugo Keenan, Tommy O'Brien. I'm not just saying this because they're Leinster players. Jamie Osborne, but they were players who have been injured. They are players who can definitely contribute to the squad, to the team. I would have had Hugo in at 15 if he's fit, like you say. Tommy O'Brien, and I might have even Jamie Osborne as a good bet for 23 because he's versatile. But so that's a key element there. But listen, there's lots of different ways the squad can go. I just think that if we're talking about bringing in new players, which we always hear at this time of year, what about changing the squad around? I don't think this block of games, these three matches, you might want to maybe put a few players out against Italy, but you really can't afford to take too many chances. You really got to go for those, go for at least compete against France and England and put our best players out there where possible. In the front row, I just think it's interesting. There's a lot of different combinations that can happen there. I mean, this Billy Bowen, it's a great opportunity for him to come up, but I think what that is a case of, he's going to be more like a tackle bag holder. Because when you get certain way down the depth chart, you've got to appreciate that the provinces have matches too during the Six Nations, so you don't want to take too many of their players. You don't want to go too deep into their squads as well. And like you say, it's a good shout. Tom O'Toole can play either side. I think they're going to have to get the most of that. They do have Milne and Lockman for the number one, but he does have that experience playing on that side as well. So it'll be interesting to see what combinations they do. Listen, no one ever agrees on match day squads. It's a sort of a hiding to nothing for anyone to pick up. But you've done a great job naming a 23 there. Thanks, Ciarán. Many thanks for that. And if you, the viewer, have any thoughts on the Irish squad, or indeed anything you'd like us to harp on in future, please leave your comments below. And while you're at it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe as well.